Right now, without realizing it, your brain is sorting every person you encounter into one of two categories: us or them. It happens in milliseconds, before language, before logic, before you've had a single conscious thought about the person in front of you. And here's the part that should unsettle you. That sorting system is not a flaw. It is the most successful survival software your species ever evolved. It kept every single one of your ancestors alive. And it is the same system currently tearing civilization apart. This is the story of why humans form tribes, and why you cannot simply decide to stop. Picture a human, not you, not anyone you know, a human from around 100,000 years ago, standing alone on an open plain in East Africa. No claws, no venom, no speed, no shell. By every physical measure, this creature should not have survived. A lion would take it in seconds. A hyena pack would finish what the lion started. The African savanna was not built for soft, slow, mostly hairless primates with fragile bones and no natural weapons. And yet here you are. The reason is not intelligence, not tools, not fire, though all of those helped. The reason, at its most fundamental level, is other people. The tribe was not a social preference. It was a biological necessity. A human alone was a dead human. A human inside a group of 20, 30, 50. That human had watchers, hunters, defenders, people who remembered where the water was when the dry season hit. That human's children survived long enough to have children of their own. Your brain did not miss this lesson. It encoded it permanently. Over hundreds of thousands of years of pressure, the humans who bonded fastest, trusted their group most deeply, and detected outsiders most accurately, those were the humans who lived, who reproduced, who passed their neural architecture forward. The humans who didn't bond well, who wandered alone, who failed to distinguish friend from threat, their lines ended, quietly, without descendants. You are the product of every ancestor who got this right. Tribalism is not something that happened to civilization. It is what made civilization possible in the first place. But here is where the obvious answer breaks down. Because if tribes were purely about survival, the system should be simple. Bond with your group, be cautious of strangers, repeat. Clean, functional, finished. The real mechanism is far stranger and far more powerful than that. When you bond with your tribe, your team, your family, your community, your brain releases oxytocin. You've probably heard of it. It's called the love hormone, the bonding chemical, the molecule of trust. And all of that is true. Oxytocin is what makes you feel warm toward the people beside you. It is what makes sacrifice feel worth it, what makes you stay when leaving would be easier. Here's what the brochure leaves out. The same oxytocin release that bonds you to your in-group simultaneously increases your suspicion of everyone outside it. Trust and distrust are not separate systems running in parallel. They are the same system, running one function. The closer you pull your people in, the harder you push everyone else away. Your brain does not experience this as bias. It experiences it as clarity. The outgroup doesn't just feel different. At the neurological level, they begin to feel like a threat, even before they've done anything threatening. And there is a hard ceiling on how far the in-group can stretch. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar discovered it in the 1990s by studying the relationship between primate brain size and average social group size across hundreds of species. The pattern was consistent. Bigger brains maintained larger, stable groups. When he applied the same calculation to humans, he landed on a number, 150. That is the maximum number of stable social relationships the human brain can genuinely maintain. 150 people. Beyond that, the social software starts to fail. You can't track the relationships, the histories, the debts, the loyalties. Trust degrades. Cooperation breaks down. The group stops feeling like a tribe and starts feeling like a crowd. You can know more than 150 people, but you cannot truly tribe with them. For most of human history, this was not a problem. Hunter-gatherer bands naturally stayed within that range. Villages stayed close to it. The system worked perfectly for the world it was built for. Then, civilization happened. Cities, nations, the internet. Modern humans now live inside groups of millions, politically, nationally, digitally, while running social hardware with a 150-person ceiling. The brain cannot process a nation of 300 million people as a tribe. It cannot feel genuine loyalty to an abstraction that large. So it does the only thing it knows how to do. It finds a smaller group, and it makes that group the tribe. A political party, a sports team, a religion, a subreddit, a nationality compressed into a flag and a jersey. The specific container doesn't matter. What matters is that once your brain assigns something as in-group, the full tribal architecture activates automatically. Oxytocin for the in-group, threat detection for everyone outside it. And the emotional intensity of the response scales not with the actual stakes, but with how strongly the brain has coded the group membership. This is why otherwise rational people will defend their political party the way their ancestors defended their campfire. This is why sports rivalries can turn violent over a game with nothing real at stake. This is why online communities will turn on a former member with an intensity that looks, from the outside, completely disproportionate. It is not disproportionate. It is ancient. Your brain is running a survival program in a world the program was never designed for. The threat is not a lion at the edge of the firelight, but the amygdala does not know that. The amygdala knows one thing: something that looks like an outgroup is moving closer. And then comes the part that is genuinely disturbing. Dehumanization is not a malfunction of the tribal system. It is a feature of it. When the outgroup threat level rises high enough, the brain begins to process outgroup members differently, not as rivals, not even as enemies, but as categorically less. Psychologists call this infrahumanization. Brain imaging shows it plainly. When subjects are shown images of people they strongly identify as outgroup, the regions associated with social cognition, the parts that process other people as fully human, show reduced activation. This is not unique to extremists. It is not a pathology reserved for the historically monstrous. It is the tribal system doing what it was built to do, lowering the psychological cost of conflict, making the hardest decisions easier. Your ancestors could not afford to hesitate at the edge of the territory. So where does that leave you? You did not choose the tribes your brain assembled. You were born into some of them, others were constructed around you, by algorithm, by geography, by the specific people you encountered at a formative age before you had any framework to evaluate what was happening. Your brain sorted them in without asking for your opinion, and it has been defending those assignments ever since. The uncomfortable truth is that knowing this does not switch the system off. Understanding tribalism does not make you post-tribal. The neuroscience is not a cure. You will still feel the warmth of the in-group and the low-level unease of the out-group. You will still find it fractionally easier to extend trust to someone who sounds like you, moves like you, roots for the same team. What awareness gives you is not freedom from the system. It gives you the ability to watch it running in real time. And in that gap, between the instinct firing and the action that follows, there is something that none of your ancestors had the luxury of using. A pause, a question, a choice. Small, imperfect, sometimes barely there at all, but there. The instinct that built civilization is the same one burning it down. The brain that sorted us into groups tight enough to survive the open savanna is now sorting us into groups too rigid to share a continent. The question is not whether you live inside it. The question is whether you can see the bars.